Welcome to the third video in a 10-part series called Adapting to Project Professional 2010. In this video we're going to cover common settings and defaults that you might want to configure inside of Project 2010. If you had a previous version of Project installed on your computer and you installed Project 2010, there's an option to bring over your default settings into the new version. If this is a brand new install, you didn't have a copy installed, or maybe your IT person installed it and didn't choose to copy the settings over, you might want to go through Project and reconfigure your default settings. So what I'm going to do here is assume that we have a brand new, fresh, from scratch installation and set some of the defaults that most of us like to set inside of Microsoft Project. So one of the things that we typically want to do is show task level 0. So I'm going to go ahead and type in task 1. You can see I just started typing a task, and this task 1 is on line 1. What we like to do is show task level 0 because it shows the full project start and finish date. So to get there, you'd normally go to Tools Options inside of previous versions. In 2010, what we do is while we're in this Gantt chart view, you'll see up at the top there's a tab, there's a sort of a header here that says Gantt Chart Tools, and there's a Format tab. Over here on the right hand side of the screen we can choose Project Summary Task. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you can see that we will insert the task level 0 into the Gantt chart view. I can also display the outline number here. I'm going to turn the outline number off. I actually don't like having that on unless there's some particular reason for why I need it for a period of time. But now you can see the task level 0 is there, and you can go ahead and edit that just as you normally would. Now some of the other things that we like to do is change the settings for any new task that we create. So what we're going to do here is go to the File menu and choose Options. This is similar to going to Tools Options inside of Microsoft Project. You can see here we have a general setting, a display setting. This is where we can set the calendar type, currency options, indicators, and whether or not we want to display the entry bar. I know a lot of people like to use the entry bar inside of Microsoft Project, and you can turn this on. I think it's off by default. Let me show you what that is. If I click OK here, and I'm here in this line that says Task 1, I can certainly go in and edit it and change it to Task 2. And if I were here, I could press the F2 key on my keyboard and modify it. But one of the other things that you could do is also use this entry bar here at the top. So that turns on this entry bar is in that File Options menu. I like to leave that entry bar on. Now I'm going to go to the Schedule tab. Now you can see here we can set the day that the week starts on, so Sunday, the fiscal year, default times, etc. Now by default, when you're making these changes, notice this drop down at the header. Right now I'm displaying Project 2, and if I want to make this a default for all new projects, I have to click that drop down and choose All New Projects. And you'll notice that as you scroll down here, that will show up again. So now we're in Scheduling Options, so I'd have to say All New Projects again. So this is actually one of the common areas where people like to make changes. So for example, the default task type. Most of us like to work with a fixed duration. I say most of us. Most people tend to like to use it that I'm aware of anyway. You may not. But you can set your default task type to fixed duration. All new tasks, not existing ones, all new tasks will now have that fixed duration. We tend to like to turn new tasks or effort driven off. I believe that Project now installs with that turned off. I like to turn off auto-linking new tasks because that usually doesn't match to the real world. And then I usually keep the rest of these settings the way that they are. So you can go through these yourself and get more familiar with these particular settings. You'll also notice that there's a proofing capability here, and this allows you to check spelling whether you're in a task field or custom fields. You can choose the default save format. So you can see here, for example, if you're working with colleagues that are all using Project 2010, you could have it just save it into the project format. Default is 2010 format. But if you have a lot of people you're working with 2000 to 2003 or 2007, you can change the default save as format. They also have the language settings. And then here on the Advanced tab, there's some additional settings. So for example, setting the auto filter, I like to have this turned on so I can automatically just choose the filtering options for any field that I happen to be on. You could also ask it to prompt you for project information on new projects. When you're connected to Project Server, that's actually pretty handy. When you're just saving your files to an MPP file, maybe not as much. One of the things that some people don't like are the Planning Wizard advice pop-ups, so you can go ahead and turn those off if you want. I'm familiar enough with projects, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Notice some of these settings don't have the drop-down to say for all new projects or just that current project, so that means that the advice from the Planning Wizard will be turned off for all new projects. Allowing cell drag and drop is another feature that I like to turn off. Now, there's some value in having the drag and drop features. I can click on a task and move up and down and drag and drop some fields. However, I find that very often I accidentally do that and it changes my project. I don't like to have that drag and drop turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. These are the common things that I typically see people work with when they're using Microsoft Project. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I did just want to show you what that filter option meant. So if I click here on this drop down, you can see that's actually the filter. Now I can just say I only want to see task 2, show all tasks, etc. Okay, so that's the filter. Now the other thing that I did want to also show you was this color settings. I really like the fact that there's a new sort of way to, I guess theme isn't the right word, but I like the option of being able to sort of take all these icons that are in this bright blue format and kind of put them to the background, because I like to focus my time and effort here in the Gantt chart view. So to do that, I can go to the File tab here, and then I can get to the Backstage. We call this the Backstage once you click the File tab, because it fills up the entire screen. And if we go over here to Options, you'll see this color scheme, and it says blue. I personally like to set this to black, and watch what happens to the background of Microsoft Project when I click OK. It essentially grayed out a lot of these icons, and it puts the focus area where I want it to be, which is down here where I'm working, with that bright white background and everything else sort of grayed out and muted a little bit. Now the one thing to be aware of is that it does it to any other Microsoft Office application as well. So I have PowerPoint running here. You can see when I changed that to blue, from blue to the black, it changed the background settings for this as well. It's unfortunate that it does it for all products. I personally like it to be in all of the products, but I know some people might like it to be different colors. So you can easily change that whenever you'd like. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it to that black background color. So that essentially wraps up some of the default settings. So just remember, to show the project summary task, that's underneath the Format tab when you're in the Gantt chart, over here to the right. And then most all of your other tools option settings are under File, Options, and you can work through all of those.